Are you rolling?
Here we are in Trenton, Ontario, in the middle of nowhere.
On June 10th, 1953, at 7:10 p.m. in the time of Gemini, my mother, Norma, gave birth to me here at Trenton Memorial Hospital. I was 7 pounds, 2 ounces, according to my baby's own journal, year by year, my life story.
We won't go through it now, but they couldn't figure out what my first name was, so they just called me Boy. It's a boy. Boy Wintonick.
My first words were Baba, not Mama, not Dada, not even film.
That was the window where my mother could look out of the hospital and wave to my father, who was teeing off at the first hole of the Trenton Memorial Golf Course.
Wow!
He was such an avid golfer. He had more interest in golfing than in the birth of his son, obviously. But that day, he scored a hole-in-one. My father was a flight sergeant in the Canadian Air Force.
This is the plane that my father worked on and flew in. It was a submarine hunter.
When my father flew away on long trips, he would bring back home movies of all the places he would go. When I was 7 years old, he gave me his 8mm Kodak movie camera, the one with a 3-turret lens. Unfortunately, my father died when I was very young. Since then, I guess I've always associated movie making with exotic places and a quixotic search for fatherhood. I still have that camera today. In public school, instead of writing essays, I made little films to impress my teachers. I guess it paid off. But I didn't complete my journalism studies at university. Instead, I dropped out and went to film school, where I ended up making the typical student films about homeless clowns and death. After graduating, I started editing fiction feature films. I thought it was my big break, that I was on my road to Hollywood. But then, late one night in a bar, I met a documentary filmmaker. It was Ron Mann who invited me to work on his film about poets. It was an epiphany. Then and there, I decided to take the documentary vow of poverty.
On East Timor, and then it appeared in the New York
Since the 1980s, I've made a number of socially engaged documentaries with my friends. Films about war and peace. A film about linguist and media critic Noam Chomsky. It was my revenge on journalism. A film about national identity, starring a busload full of Japanese tourists. And even a documentary about the history of documentary. These days, I'm interested in the democratic uses of technology to transform human rights. This work takes me around the world. I give workshops in filmmaking to old pros and young kids alike. I write about film for different newspapers and magazines. I was even the thinker in residence for the premiere of South Australia, where I got paid to think about documentary. It's a tough life, but somebody's got to do it. Over 3 decades, I've attended hundreds of film festivals. Our films have won lots of prizes.
Le lauréat est Peter Wintonick.
Even the Queen's representative in Canada presented me with one of our country's highest honors. But honestly, the greatest award I ever got was when my partner Christine and I produced something even better than any film. Our daughter